How's it going, everybody? This is going to be a farewell video to the LG G2 77-inch that I had. I had it for about 8 months or so. So a long-term review, and going to talk about if you should consider the G2 still in 2023 and just overall how the experience was having the LG G2. So this is pretty much just going to be me relaxing, talking about the G2 experience and how 23 landscape has changed, and I'll recap some of the things that you learned and put in other videos throughout the year about the G2. But before getting into all that, if this video helps you out, I'd appreciate if you could hit the like button and subscribe, and maybe leave a comment below. What are your thoughts on where LG is now in the OLED world, with the G2 now going into the G3 and even the C series? It's well known at this point that LG is facing some stiff competition from QD OLED, but that said, LG still brings plenty of their own to the table, including their experience with OLED technology, by offering a very smooth and just general reliability focused day-to-day use experience that really should not be overlooked. Consider the TV as the entire package, not just the panel technology. You have 4 full bandwidth HDMI 2.1 ports, you have ATSC 3.0, you have a reliable operating system, you don't really have many issues to worry about with firmware updates or the image quality drastically changing from one day to the next. And while there were a few issues in the beginning of its launch period, all that seems to have been addressed, or at least the majority of it. And something about LG that's commonly slept on is how customizable the viewing experience really is. While LG is very well known for their accuracy and being able to calibrate it to as good as possible pretty much, there's also the other side where you can adjust a bunch of settings and play with it and do your own preference type of viewing if that's what you want to do. You can even change the way tone mapping works on it, which you can't do on other TVs and things like that. LG also pretty much knocks off every checkbox that you would want to have checked. When it comes to gaming, pretty much any gaming feature you want, it has. When it comes to viewing formats, the only one that's not here is HDR10+, but it does have Dolby Vision, which is a bit better overall. And off topic, but I do plan to be covering HDR10+ more this year, so keep an eye out for that. But back to the TV, the G2, as you probably know at this point, does not come with a stand or legs. It comes with a flush mount wall mount. Because it is the gallery series and it's meant to look good on a wall, it's not going to come with a stand. There is one sold separately, or you can buy any VESA stand and use that. But if they were to include a stand, it would have to be a premium looking stand, which would add to the cost of the TV. So that is something to keep in mind when considering buying any of the gallery series from LG. So if we start talking about picture quality and considering 2023 models like the G3 and how the performance is going to differ, well, pretty much it's not that different than any other year-over-year change. So a new TV is not going to make this TV any less. And for the majority of content, when I say majority, I really mean not just the number of titles, but also the majority of scenes in nearly all titles. Very, very few scenes and very few movies would really go to a level above the capabilities of the G2 to be visibly and noticeably different on a more capable display. And if we start looking at processing things such as motion right here, there really isn't any more advancement that could be done for motion like this, because sample and hold displays will always have that same limitation of approximately 300 lines of resolution in moving content, especially panning scenes, without motion interpolation or black frame insertion. And then if we go into like clarity, detail, sharpness, and noise reduction, LG is really the only one allowing you to really turn off all the stuff so that you get all the detail without any unnatural smoothing or artifacts. But of course there are noise reduction and so on settings and super resolution and whatnot if you choose to use them, but they are less heavy-handed than with other brands. When it comes to Dolby Vision, I did a video prior to this about Dolby Vision versus HDR10 using this scene in particular, as well as some others. And the G2 and the A95K are basically the top two Dolby Vision displays that you can get as of up to 2022. So if Dolby Vision is a concern for you, G2 definitely a highlight for it. As I showed and explained in that video, when you have HDR10, you pretty much decide, or more so, the TV makers decide, do you make your HDR10 really bright and cut off the highlights and then you don't see the detail, or do you tone map the really bright objects aggressively so that you see more detail but at a loss of brightness? And what Dolby Vision can do is frame by frame make that decision so that it shows all the detail while maximizing brightness at the same time, and there's no guessing as to what is right or wrong. Now, another aspect of the entire TV package that concerns a lot of people is the built-in speakers or sound quality. Not everybody is going to have a soundbar or sound system. While I do recommend having, external real speakers, I would say the G2 speakers are in the top tier of built-in TV speakers. As long as you enable the AI sound setting, that really does make a difference on this TV. I will let you hear that now for a minute, and then I will come back.
That's enough. We'll start fresh tomorrow.
I can do it.
You need rest. Anything else will have diminishing returns.
Sir Laszlo, he protected me in Sintra, and he said less than perfect means death.
Your stomach's growling loud enough to wake the dead. If that counts.
Hunger makes for good sauce.
Also makes for shitty lunches. Siri. You are safe here. Was it the Black Knight again? If he's still haunting you.
Whose turn is it for lunch?
Now, to move into gaming, of course, it's an LG TV. It does fantastic with gaming. Some people do have issue with the SDR brightness. I don't think most would. It does get nearly 300 nits in SDR game mode, which is plenty, and comparatively to Sony OLEDs is more, considering that they dim down and you can disable the dimming on the LG TVs. Going into HDR gaming, you have HGIG, so you can set the parameter limits for the TV and the game and the Xbox or PS5, and then you don't really have to touch anything from one game to the next. There are some people who have a more preference approach to what they want to see out of games, and they don't like HGIG because it's not as bright as they would want, and then that's where the dynamic tone mapping setting comes in, and then there's the dynamic tone mapping turned off, and that setting is fully customizable with a tone mapping upload through Calman, which can allow you to calibrate it completely accurately to the specific panel, or you can just change it to brighten everything up, maybe not as bright as dynamic tone mapping. You can really set it however you want and customize your viewing experience if you know how to do that. I'm sure at some point I'll have a video explaining that whole process. But overall, picture quality in game mode is fantastic. Nothing to complain about. Dark areas stay very dark. There's no blooming or haloing to worry about with OLED. And the combination of pixel response time with input lag is faster on this than any other display at 120 Hz. So I've talked about gaming more in depth in other videos for this. Since this is just a long-term recap and send-off video for the G2, compared to 23 models, which are launching at high prices, and this is greatly discounted now, it's all $2,000 for the 65-inch. Really fantastic deals to be had on it. Definitely consider it if you're more of a value shopper. It gets plenty bright enough for the overwhelming majority of rooms. Only the most brightest sun-soaked rooms would you maybe consider a mini LED or something a little bit brighter, but other than that, brightness really isn't a concern to be had with the G2. And if it weren't for me doing what I do, I absolutely would have kept it and not changed this year, but alas, I had to see it go. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Thanks.